ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we are back once again on the bridge of a Tier 10 American premium cruiser, USS Puerto Rico. Now, this is the last of a string of replays that I've put up on the channel this week. It's been kind of Puerto Rico week here on the YouTube channel, but that was partially intentional. As I've noted several times, I've been having a lot of fun in this ship, despite her, let's be honest, despite her flaws. But this replay is a little different for the first time. In this one, I am in a division. That's right. I have teamed up with my buddy Sneaky Snake, fellow King of the Sea organizer and admin here on NA. I happened to be logged in middle of the last week or so, and Sneaky pinged me, and he hadn't done that in a while, and said, hey, why don't we go play some? And so we did. We played a few games, and about 5 or 6 games in, he goes, I'm gonna take out my Puerto Rico. And I said, hey, why don't we both do that? And so here we are. We're spawning, of course, into the western half here of Tears of the Desert. And a couple of things that I want to note. If you've watched the previous Puerto Rico videos on the channel, you've seen me kind of go through some iterations of how I've fit the ship out. The very first battle report I did, of course, she had reload mod and defensive fire. After that first couple of games, I thought, the AA is strong enough, I started taking sonar. So here I have sonar equipped instead of defensive fire, which just happens to work out. No carriers in this game. And I've also, as I noted in a couple of my videos, I've switched over to range mod rather than reload speed. One of the things that I've kind of settled on about Puerto Rico that I kind of wish they need, in my opinion, they need to improve her accuracy. Her accuracy is, I'm not going to be polite about this, her accuracy sucks. And it's the single most frustrating thing about the ship. Her reload speed is slower than that of Alaska, but I've decided that I could live with that. It's only 2 seconds slower because she has more shells to put on target. Okay, that feels all right. But the accuracy just, really, really frustrating. So what's going to happen in this game is that Snake and I are going to kind of try and tag team together as we push here up the 2 line, going to the A cap, trying to provide some support for that Kleber we see, who is trying to cap, but probably will ultimately be unable to simply due to his detection radius. Now, for some bizarre reason, I had AP loaded there. I don't know why. So obviously that was a mistake, especially at this angle. I don't expect to get a whole lot of anything out of those, and then we're going to switch to the HE and start seeing if we can land some decent fires onto this Kerr first. I mean, 2 overpens. According to this, I got 2 pens, but yeah, that didn't really get me any damage. More 0 damage pens. So we swap to the HE here, and we start in on the Kerr first. Now, unlike some of the other games that I've played in Puerto Rico, this one has a fair number of destroyers, 4 per side. And it does change kind of the nature and the face of how we play this game a little bit. For starters, neither one of us, we're not excited about pushing up. Like, we have huge detection radiuses, these ships handle fairly badly, and it's just not worth it. You can see there that angry smoke cloud back there is clearly one of the, it is the enemy Smolensk, trying to farm me for damage, but at this range, he's not having a tremendous amount of luck. I'm doing a little better, landing damage on this Kerr first here. But we also quickly realized that with a Kleber, we are not really going to cap this cap, right? It's just not going to happen. So if you look at the minimap, you can see Snake there off my bow. He's already there. He goes crossing in front of my bow. He's already decided, and we're in voice comms. He's telling me, look, I'm turning around, I'm going back south. This ain't happening. And he's right. Like, we are not going to really have a serious impact up here, not with a Kleber trying to cap. So I slow down, let him cut across my bow as I start to do the same thing here and turn back south and start to be a little more relevant. Now, the Yoshino up on the A line has done something that just, to me, is very, very awkward. And that is, he's parked, trying to reverse, bow in. And if you've played Yoshino, you know that, like, I can just pen this guy all day long with my HE. I don't need an angle to get full pens on this guy. What's going to save him, ultimately, what's going to make his life a little easier is that my accuracy, even at long range, is for trash. So I'm going to land some shells on him. I'm going to get some damage out of him. But it's not going to be anything like it would have been if this had been, say, a Yoshino on Yoshino engagement, where my HE shells would just be, we'd be wrecking each other, to be brutally honest. So here, as we do a flip here, we try to kind of push east up along the E line here. Want to move back in a little closer to the cap, maybe provide some support for the Z-52 that has just recently been driven out of the B cap. Very, very shortly, the enemy will have 2 caps. They already own the A cap, of course, and they're basically going to get B unchallenged, as there is quite a good fight going on at C down at the bottom of the map. but we are unable to impact that from here. So I'm continuing to push east, moving with my div mate, just chucking pot shots at this Yoshino, who has to basically stay frosty. The Ohio off my port side, of course, is kind of keeping him honest. And the Kleber up north has found an enemy, Harugumo, who's apparently trying to push around that island into through A1 and come back down like the one line or something. The Yoshino finally goes dark as I switch back to my good and dear friend here, the Großer Kurfürst, who is just parked. He's been parked in that position for quite some time. So I know what to do with this guy. Let's go back to harassing him. Now our Harugumo down south becomes the first casualty of the game, which makes our fight for C not look very good, as we're just kind of continuing to play angles up here and look for ways that we can be impactful. Now the Z that had been at B has left that cap, turned it over to the enemy Z, and has now come up here into A. We know the gearing is south. We know the Harugumo is up north. The Harugumo is actually probably who capped A to begin with, and we know he's not in the cap, so that gives this set a little bit of an encouragement and probably the ability to come up here and have an impact. If you were paying attention there, you saw a pretty healthy HE salvo there on the Kurfürst, about 10k. You can get really good HE salvos out of this ship, but it means that you have to get the shells to land, and that's where the problems, that's where the fight starts, Your Honor, is because just getting... you're firing 12 shells and getting more than about half of them to land on target is frequently very, very difficult. 7 minutes gone. About to finally bag our first cap. We're actually under the 300 points we started with, thanks to the Harugumo dying. We're going to finally start ticking up caps here in a minute. As I realize I've kind of blundered into this Kurfürst secondary range, I don't want to be here. I turn on the engines and start trying to open this range up a bit. 200-point lead for the other team is pretty much all Snake and I can do here is try to hold back the floodgates, try to keep them from pushing straight through A. The enemy Harugumo is now back into A. Somebody's in A with the Z. We can see that. A is not going anywhere. C is not going anywhere. The enemy is ticking up B, but that's it. We're not the only ones playing behind the caps, though. You can look at the map and see that large chunks of the enemy team are doing similarly. B, there might be somebody in B. That Z might still be in there. We don't know. The Kurfürst, there we go. The Kurfürst airs the Z. The Z that had been in B is now in A, trying to push our Z out. This Kurfürst is going to give me a great angle. I probably should have switched. I do switch to the AP there. Okay. So I switched to the AP thinking, all right, well, I've got a broadside, battleship. Let me see if I can get some full pens out of these 12-inch guns. And, well, just gotta reel it. But then, of course, he does what fate decides that he must, and that he turns into me and kind of invalidates my cunning plan to try and land full pens. Now, one of the other things that I've done, you look how quickly I changed shells there. I've switched over to one of the American captains, one of the Doe brothers, right, with the expert loader talent. That means expert loader now reloads in 75% faster rather than 50% faster. So that means I can change shell types in a little more than 5 seconds. That has come in really handy in this ship, and I highly recommend that captain on both Puerto Rico and Alaska, no matter which one that you own. All the caps contested now. Snake has edged into the B cap here. We've decided we're both going to rotate back north. I'm going to see if I can push up and try and get that Z under my radar bubble. He was moving south last we saw him. There's a Montana way over here that's kind of at a bit of a compromising position. As once again, you see I swapped to the AP there, thinking, all right, well, I've got a perfectly broadside battleship. If I'm going to try this, now's the time. But he kind of quits moving, and I have to adjust my aim here. And ultimately, I don't really get a whole lot out of those. The Snake is making good inroads, capturing B, bizarrely. I wouldn't have expected that, but it is happening. Got the sonar up, figuring that the Z is going to sense my approach and try to put some torpedoes down this little island gap in front of me. But I haven't popped the radar yet. I'm not quite positive where he is. He's possibly in my range. He might not be. I'm not sure. And Snake decides that he's not going to be able to get B, so he bails out. So now, here we are, 10 minutes gone. We're one ship down, and the enemy owns every single cap. The Yoshino is showing me a great shot. Here's a perfect example of where that expert loader comes into play, as I managed to swap to the AP very quickly and get a beautiful shot on this guy. It's a pretty solid hit. I do land a Citadel, 15,000 damage. It's not a big dev strike, unfortunately. as he gets another 8K back at me. With him starting to show me the angle, I swap back to the... Oh, no, okay, I've got the AP loaded. I'm not going to get much out of it, but I know from previous experience with these guns that I can get the AP onto the Des Moines at this angle and get some good work out of it. Unfortunately, it's not as big a hit as I would have liked, but I do get 3 full pins, as now I do swap back to the HE, as I have 2 delicious targets in front of me that are low enough that if I can land enough shells, my HE will be useful. You can see, if you take a quick look at the minimap in between reloads here, you can see that our forces down south, where we were actually like really strong, have all but been annihilated. There's a Gearing, a Daring, and a Montana, all in the sea, basically on or around the sea cap. Our lone conqueror down there basically having to run away, not able to be effective anymore. Kerr secondaries do finally bag the Des Moines as we do catch wind of the Zed here as he heads back to the B cap. Kerr sonar picking up his torpedoes there. I get a pot shot at him, but don't get a whole lot out of it. 9 minutes to play, and technically we're not completely out of this game. There's a big points gap, but we don't own much real estate. Blessedly, the Z-52 well over on over there in C2 off my port flank here is going to be able to finally bag the A-cap. That's going to allow us to start ticking up points for the first time all game, it feels like. That's a small exaggeration, but boy, we have not earned many points this game, that's for sure. As Snake himself is back into the B-cap. You can also see that he's spotted a Daring in the gap, trying to move up into the B-cap as well. I get some shells onto the Zed. So now Snake's in a bit of a compromising position here. He's got a destroyer off his port side. He's got some island cover. Probably doesn't have to worry about torpedoes. But the Daring is right in front of him, and the Daring seems to be charging him. So he pings me on voice. He says, hey, help me with this guy. And so together, with his radar, which I believe comes up. Nope, he had it up earlier. There we go. But now he's got the guy face spotted. We started trying to get some shells on this Daring. The Zed is moving back into the B-cap. I'm going to have some shots on him momentarily as he cuts in front of this little island, which feels like a bad decision. It is going to allow me to get at least one solid salvo on this guy. He's using the island to keep the Kerr in between them, but I can certainly hit him, and do. He knows he's been touched. I repair there. I want my gun, all my turrets back. So if I get a shot on this guy again, I can finish him off. Snake and I are coordinating now. He's gonna be able to get a shot on the Zed as he pushes up. You can see him there moving to where he's gonna have his guns on the backside of the island. The Zed's sonar has me now, and I decide, well, two can play that game. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the radar, not sonar yet. I popped the radar first. The Yoshino in the back has been playing a really great game. But guess he's about to get caught by RNG as I land a triple fire salvo on him with only 4 shells. And if you know Yoshino, you know that those were full pins and she burns really, really nicely. I must have caught him with his DCP on cooldown because now this guy is in huge amounts of trouble. And, well, fire takes him. We now have a 3-ship lead and a health advantage despite still being down 60 or 70 points. So we're not quite out of the woods. There's still a Daring and a Gearing for us to deal with down around the sea cap. And the friendly Conqueror on the J line, who has been playing a great game just staying alive, is finally going to get some help, and he is quite grateful. We do finally lose our Kerr first there in the gap between A and B, as both Snake and I decide, all right, it's time to go have us a proper destroyer barbecue. Let's go work this out. He manages to dodge the Yoshino torps over there. You see him crawling across the screen. And in just a moment, he's going to pop up some Daring torps coming across his bow that lets us know approximately which way the Daring went as he ran south. He calls it out to me in voice. I'll take a glance over there in a moment as I do hope pop my sonar. Yep, there they are. I want to make sure that the Gearing doesn't leave me a gift that I stumble into, because Alaska's torpedo protection is better than Alaska. It's about 28%, but it's still not the sort of thing that, you want to be eating big, nasty top-tier torpedoes unless you absolutely can't avoid it. He's actually face-spotting the Daring at this point, so we're not using sonar or radar to spot this guy. That's how close the Daring has let him get. And I can't quite help. I've got to wait for this island to get out of the way. And there we go. I pull the trigger again, right about here. There it is. And, well, interestingly enough, in back-to-back salvos, triple fires. Daring really hates my guts right now. Clearly, the fact that he hasn't put it out means his DCP is on cooldown as the gearing decides to show up. Player 2 has entered the match. You can see the torpedoes coming in. I'm well aware of them as I start to get my guns turned around to deal with this gearing that Conqueror is throwing in his shells, and I overturn like a dummy and take a torp in the stern that I didn't need to. Because Puerto Rico is fat. Down to a 2-ship lead now. We're still behind on points because the Thunder and Smolensk up north have whittled it down to just the enemy Ohio's all that's left up there. As Snake and I are just desperate to get rid of this gearing, we have to get this guy off the board, but his radar, he's got him spotted. My radar will be up if we need it, but it turns out that his next salvo, between him and the Conqueror, we just, we get enough in, and he burns out. So now, it's 3-on-1 with 4 minutes to play. Me and Snake, both in the cap, we'll turn this around fairly quickly, as we'll eventually we'll own all the caps, and then it's just up to the Ohio up north to not die at the wrong time. We need to get a lead before he dies, and figure that out. He's on 3,000 HP. It doesn't look very good. Thunder shells coming in on him, and yeah, there he goes. So the lead does change back to them briefly, however. The Thunder is off the A-cap. Momentarily, we will own all the caps. And, well, that'll allow us to slowly, finally, with less than 3 minutes to play, we'll end up taking our first lead of the game. Whew, we had to work for this game, guys. One of the things that drives me a little crazy about Puerto Rico, and I've said it time and time again, is her dispersion. Her dispersion ellipse is terrible. And it means that you just... It's a fun ship to play. I love having all these 12-inch guns, but man, yeah, it just feels like so much work to play this ship because you're constantly, you line a shot up and you pull the trigger and you're just like, ugh. It is very much like playing a battleship. I kind of, as I've played more of her, I've kind of likened her to Graf Spee a little bit, right? She's extremely good at killing cruisers, as you would expect with these guns. She is a threat, maybe not an extreme one, but certainly a threat to an enemy battleship, especially with her super heavy 12-inch American piercing shells. If a battleship disrespects you and goes broadside, will you Citadel him? Probably not. Depends on the range, but you can certainly put enough full pins into him that he is going to feel it. I've had some 20+ thousand point salvos with the AP out of the ship. And again, if you own an Alaska, if you've played Alaska, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When somebody disrespects your guns at medium range, and you can slam a lot of full AP pens into him, it hurts bad. At this point, we're kind of just waiting for mop-up. He's going to cap A. We can't stop him. We won't have eyes on him in time. The best thing that we can do is simply not die. We have a lead. As long as we don't lose a ship, we should be able to carry this one over the line to victory. Interestingly enough, despite the fact that Snake has more kills, I asked him at one point what he was doing for damage. He has less than 100,000 damage in a game that he's, you know, is going to go to time. Spoiler alert. Whereas I've racked up around 150-ish and only have the 1 kill. And I'm wondering, one of the things I didn't get the chance to ask him is if that's a bit of a philosophy difference. You know, I mean, I spent most of my game firing HE. I do tend to default to HE on this ship because you just... The gun salvos are so wonky. You can't rely on the AP to do much unless you're at like point blank range, and even then it might not matter. So the HE is simply a nice, safe option, especially when you're firing at battleships. You can get fires, you can farm their health, and slowly whittle them down to where hopefully something bigger than you can finish the deal. This Thunderer also, I know he's squishy. I know from playing Thunder is super squishy. So the HE at this range, not a bad pick. Trick is, I've got to make sure I don't die. His return battery fire coming in, so I cut in to try and hold the angle. He gets a couple of overpins there, maybe a full pen. Not that bad. Snake and I continue to drop shells on this guy. Another 5k there. But time ticking away, and this will be over shortly. So I kind of wanted to show you that one, guys, just because, I mean, you don't generally consider these ships as destroyer hunters. I mean, I don't. Not with these guns. But I've had some situations where it can be made to work. Certainly two of us working in tandem here were able to make it work. And certainly if you've got a destroyer spotter at other points, you can absolutely ruin some poor destroyer's day. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed kind of Puerto Rico week here on the channel. I'm really enjoying the ship. I've already given my feedback. Hopefully they can make some updates, and hopefully she'll get better. She's not a bad ship, but she needs a little bit of love. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Be safe out there, and I'll catch you next time.